to welcome you to Homo Politicos today on Enterprise Television. Many thanks for joining me. Kingsley Bass is my name. We turn today to the National Assembly, where once again the implementation timeline for the capital component of the 2024 federal budget has been extended, this time to December 31, 2025. And this marks the second extension, raising serious questions, very serious questions about Nigeria's fiscal discipline, transparency, and the pace of development in the country. You know, if you recall, the 2024 budget is about 34 trillion naira, and that includes a capital expenditure of 13.1 trillion naira, and that was originally scheduled to conclude by, of course, December 2024. But amid rising concerns over funding constraints and delayed project execution, President Bola Tinubu had wrote to the National Assembly seeking an extension to allow the executive complete key infrastructural projects. Now, senators, as a matter of fact, both chambers of National Assembly agreed to that sometime last year, extending that to June 30, 2025. That's just some few days from now. And they cited the government's limited financial capacity, especially following the removal of fuel subsidies at the time and its ripple effect on the economy. As a matter of fact, the Senate Appropriations Committee Chair, Senator Olamilekan Adeola, had defended the move as necessary to prevent widespread abandonment of projects or federal projects, and still other lawmakers were pressing for increased oversight and transparency to ensure these funds are not mismanaged or diverted. Now, it's been extended for the second time. Again, as mentioned, this time till December 2025, the last day in December 2025. Well, what does this mean for Nigeria? We'll talk about this and more. Does this budget extension present the executive, the Tinubu-led administration, an opportunity for genuine impact? Or will the long-delayed promises eventually deliver a result for ordinary Nigerians? In Homo Politicos today, we would talk about this. We'll talk about the political, the economic, and the institutional layers of this budget extension. Let's talk about what this means for public trust and for development in Nigeria. I'm joined at this time by the head Artificial Intelligence, the head Artificial Intelligence Accountability and Data for Society at Budget. I'm talking about Oluwatosin Isheni. Many thanks for joining me today on Homo Politicos.
Hello, Kingsley. It's good to be here.
Many thanks again for joining me. Let's get straight to the conversation. From your point of view, I mean, you have over time analyzed the 2024 budget. I recall at some point we talking about this in the past, on a program, dissecting things, breaking things down. At the time this was first extended to June 30, 2025, we talked about this too, and we spoke about the implications, for fiscal, discipline and indeed developments in Nigeria. Now that this has been extended for the second time, Oluwatosin, I put it to you again. How do you feel? What does this mean for Nigerians?
This is something to be very, very worried about. Having overlapping budgets is does not reflect a good budget performance. It does not reflect a proper budgeting. Of course, you don't expect such budget to be credible. Budget doesn't just start from the implementation; it starts from the preparation process. So, by the time you're even trying to impute certain expenditure, into the budget, you should know the time frame for each of this expenditure. So I don't know why we should be having overlapping capital expenditures, from one year to the other. This is not the first time. It's just that this is like the only time where we'll be having two budgets, running concurrently to the end of the fiscal year. In 2022, we had the 2022 capital expenditure, moved into 2023 budget. 2023 capital expenditure moved into 2024 budget. Now the 2024 capital expenditure, component is moved into the 2025 budget. And this is a show to tell you that in the last 3 years, the stakeholders in charge of the oversight of the budget have not been doing their, they have not been doing their due diligence. We're talking about the ministries, which should be the key focal points for implementation of capital expenditure, to the legislature, who should be performing another oversight, ensuring that the government get value from money. I'm talking about the legislature. I'm going to talk about the appropriations committee, that is in charge of implementation of the budget. Also, the Ministry of Finance, too, that is also playing a critical role, in ensuring that the cash is properly, disbursed for implementation of this budget. If you look at the policy document that guides the actualization of the budget, which is the Fiscal Responsibility Act. It stated clearly, that immediately when the budget is passed, as an act of Parliament, 30 days into it, disbursement should commence. It says that a disbursement, in quotes, a disbursement schedule derived from the cash plan is to be prepared by the Ministry of Finance within 30 days of the Appropriation Act passage, outlining how funds will be disbursed. So no, we don't. If you know that a certain project should last, should last 6 months or should last 9 months, you don't need to wait till the second quarter or even the third quarter to make disbursements for it. You have only 12 months in a year. Out of that 12 months, the Fiscal Responsibility Act stated that immediately this budget is passed by Act of Parliament, you have 30 days to prepare how you want to disburse this cash. Stating that you have to even look at the kind of expenditure that you have and the number of months for actualization of this expenditure. But if we have been going by this, by this kind of planning as dictated by the Fiscal Responsibility Act, we won't be having this issue. So it's a show that either the Ministry of Finance is not doing its due diligence, or they didn't even commence their planning for disbursement early. The ministry do not submit the expenditure for payments, or the legislature, which is the committee for appropriations, did not follow up with implementation of the project. Probably when payment was made to the contractors, they did not follow up with immediate action to ensure that these people start working immediately. Sometimes you also cannot even blame the ministries too, because at the end of the day, they would have even submitted this expenditure and these contractors will not commence work. Sometimes it is late payment, so we cannot really factor out, or we cannot clearly state that there are multi-dimensional issues here that we are discussing.
Oluwatosin, before we proceed, to further questions, let's take a listen to the senator, former governor of Bayelsa State, representing the Good People, a section of the Good People of Bayelsa as well, Seriaki Dixon, and his comments while this was debated on the floor of the Senate. What must be done, how he feels about that, and his general thoughts, especially the political side I mentioned, to this particular development. Let's take a listen to him, and then we'll be back in a moment.
Has grounded, that's what it means. Contractors who have done their jobs, committed their resources, cannot be paid. The benefits of the budget that we all took time to work on and passed has not gotten to the people. And guess what? We are talking of the capital component. The recurrent component, which is for the bureaucrats, 100%. It has gotten to them 100%. 100%. The component that has not been released, that is still stagnant, nothing is moving forward, is the real one that goes to the people of Nigeria for development of our country, for all the people that we represent. So it's a very sad situation. You recall that some weeks back, there was a time that contractors, out of frustration and anger, I hear even stage demonstrations. I read about it. A number of you on this floor may be familiar with that. So, Mr. President, the chairman of appropriation, unlike other motions and debates he has led, for which we have always supported, even from this aisle, in the interest of the country, today has not given compelling reasons why this extension has become necessary. And I don't want to hazard any guess, but from this aisle, you all know what is happening. Maybe there is too much preoccupation with politics and 2027. Maybe there is too much concentration on receiving defectors all across the country, and people are not looking at it. No, please come to Mr. President, I have the floor.
Don't deviate. You started very well, end very well.
I have the floor.
Many thanks for staying there. That was Seriake Dickson, former governor of Bayelsa and now senator representing the good people of Bayelsa. They're talking about this entire situation, the extension of the 2024 budget implementation, especially of the capital component of the budget. Well, he mentioned in that, on the floor of the Senate, in that clip we just played you, some political side to this. He did, tease the governing party and senators of the governing All Progressives Congress, saying that, maybe it is the gale of defections from the PDP, from the Labour Party and other parties to the All Progressives Congress that is distracting them, the party, from consistently or properly implementing what they should do in terms of this budget. What do you say just to why this problem is there? I know you mentioned already that sometimes you can't blame this ministry. Sometimes, the operational committee should have done the oversight to follow up with this and the rest. But why is there a major political problem? You referenced to how 2022 into 2023 there was an overlap as well. Why does this problem continue to exist, Oluwatosin?
So on the political side, I would say is intentionality, the political will, the intentionality of the administration, because it has not gotten this bad in previous years. You cannot say that your core assignment has been neglected because of politics. Politics should not be primary. Your primary assignment is to oversee the affairs of the country. And this is governance we are discussing here. Politics is the act that brought you into power, but the main, we are not. I will be speaking as a Nigerian now. We didn't take them there to go and play politics. We took them there to go and represent us and govern the country. As a legislator, your first assignment is to ensure that policies are being developed and run properly. That is your core assignment. And the number one policy of the country is the budget itself. And when the budget is not properly implemented, you will know that if even the administration has failed. When I'm talking about administration, I'm talking about now I'm going to put it on the floor of the National Assembly. National Assembly itself has failed. Because the budget and the executive had developed this, and submitted it to the legislature to look at the implementation aspect of it. It's not just passing it. If it was, I want to believe that it's also, I've mentioned that it's intentionality, right? I want to also believe that they have also not even looked at the parts where it interests the people. Because if it was something that is around, inflation of the budget, something that is around, imputing new expenditures into the budget, you will see them there. They will be right there and they will defend it. Why are you not now doing what is supposed to be basic? This is like your basic responsibility.
Oh well, let's talk about how this
extensions.
Yes, I suppose there's a technical glitch in terms of network there. But
this issue.
Yes.
Nigeria.
Dear.
Are
okay.
You me?
Yes. Well, if you can hear me, I'm with you, but it appears the network is not with me or with you.
I can't hear you.
Okay, again, the network is probably not with you, with me now. but let's try one more time as we attempt to reconnect with Oluwatosin Isheni. Are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Fantastic. Yes. Okay. So I was just going to say that let's talk about how these extensions affect public trust in the federal budgeting process and indeed overall government performance. Because when budgets will be passed, usually November, December for the next year in preparation for the next year, there's so much attention paid to the budget passage. Nigerians become skeptical about padding, insertion of projects and the rest. With this extensions, two with one budget, how do you think this would affect public trust? Will Nigerians, further trust the federal government to do what they have to do in terms of overall government performance?
I will speak as a Nigerian and not even as an expert, because when you're running a single budget in a year, you've not even successfully, implemented it properly. Imagine when you're running two concurrently. That's an issue. They've proven that they do not even have the capacity to even implement the single one that they have. Now they want to implement two at the same time. How would they do that? With the same hands that have not been able to, with the same infrastructure that have not been able to even implement a single budget. So I will tell you, over the last 3 years, but capital implementation has averagely been around 17 to 23% in that fiscal year. So, for example, if capital expenditure for the year is 8 trillion naira or maybe 10 trillion naira, in that single year, the highest they'll be able to implement is about maybe 2.3 trillion naira. The next is going to be moving into the next fiscal year to be implemented. So this tells you that it's a poor planning. It's a planning thing. You do not commence disbursement early. And this is even we've not even looked at cash backs. At the end of the day, there are some even amount that was sent to the ministry and the ministry has to return because it got to them late. Imagine that you have an expenditure that is going to last 8 months and you are sending, making initial payments for that on that project towards the end of June, for example, and the project is supposed to take 8 months. That's where you're going to have an overflow. I'm very, very sure that there's some expenditure that is supposed to be carried out in 2025 that has not been paid for at all. These are the kind of expenditure that is going to make itself into the.
So you are saying that there's a possibility. You are saying that there's a possibility that even the 2025 budget would need an extension.
By the grace of God.
You said by the grace of God.
Honestly, yes, with the drags and everything, the budget is still going to be reviewed. It will be called back because of the slash in oil prices. Oil prices is not doing so well, and the global market is also not okay. Just look at what is happening in the Middle East right now between Israel and Iran. Of course, it's going to affect oil sales. Oil prices is going to rise. Nigeria won't be able to even market what they have.
And that major thing to consider, Oluwatosin, would be that do you think that there's a risk here that these delays, these extensions will lead to possible project abandonment or even inflation-related cost overruns? Because as you've said, there'll be inflation-related costs that would come with executing some of these projects.
So I will not say abandonment, you understand, because of course it can only be abandoned if the budget is not extended into the new year. You understand? That's when we'll be having conversation of abandonment. But consistent rollover, it just speaks weakness in budget planning. You understand? See, by the time in 2026, by the time they released the budget survey, OBS, by International Budget Partnership, by the time they do their budget survey, Nigeria is still going to fall lower than what is and they fell to in 2023. The 2024 review that was done in 2025, we fell drastically. We did same in 2023, and I'm very, very sure with what we have right now, we are still going to fall downwards in 20. So these are credibility issues. It's an issue of budget credibility. It is not even about it's not even about the oversight anymore, because people when you have a credibility issue, people will not even trust your budget process anymore. Outside, let's just forget about what it looks like within the country. A country that is poorly planned will not have investors coming in. It just risks that this country is a very, very unserious country.
Are you worried too about there's a perception that the man in charge of the country, President Tinubu, is politically sound, and then he's gathered technocrats, very sound individuals, with due respect to them, to lead the way as well alongside him in order to get the country moving. And with the plenty talks already about 2027 and the noise about the economy being revived and the rest, are you worried about the quality of execution, of implementation with this group of leaders?
This present administration, just like any other administration, would have one of the best hands. They have experts across different fields. And remember, it is not just, that's why we have three level of check and balance: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. So it is not being run by just the executive alone or even the legislature alone. There are technocrats within the ministries. There are technocrats within the committees of the National Assembly, even before it gets to the judiciary. I want to believe that they have the best of minds, there. They have the best of mind there. It is not just about the central power alone. There are different levels. So there are people there, there are experts there. What are we going to say about all of the special advisors, senior special advisors that are there?
That's maybe why this is worrisome, yeah? Because you expect that with the there's again the perception and indeed the bragging that goes, permit my choice of words, bragging that goes with the fact that the president is surrounded by people who know what they are doing. Yet it looks like we continue to get disappointed with how things go. But because we've got to go, and in closing, what steps must we take now? For a lot of Nigerians, this is a core. We're talking about the capital component of the budget. This is a core, the one that should touch Nigerians. The one, like Senator Seraki Dixon did mention in that clip. The one that concerns the elites,
citizens,
the ones that concern the elites, that has been taken care of. But the ones that really concern the citizens, we're lagging behind in terms of that. There's a problem, there's a challenge with that. What can citizens do? What steps should be taken to ensure financial discipline going forward? We cannot continue to have these challenges.
Okay, do you want me to respond? Are you saying what would the citizens do differently?
What can citizens do? What must be done from the government point of view as well to solve this? So that next year, I'm sure it's depressing to return having these conversations.
First, we need to reassess our fiscal calendar. We need to look into our calendar. If we know that we cannot run the January to December fiscal year, we can adjust it. The US is running September to October fiscal year. You understand? If we know that we cannot run projects in 12 months anymore, if you want to extend it, we can review it. You review the Fiscal Responsibility Act and have a more realistic calendar.
I think the country returned to the January to December calendar when President Buhari tried to implement that, I think sometime in 2017 or so. So you're saying we should go back, just be realistic. If we cannot do January to December.
I'm just saying, if it's not realistic for them anymore, they should make adjustment, but they need to reassess their calendar. And it's not just about January to December alone. It begins with even the cash itself. When the budget preparation commences, you understand? Not even because they had a very, very long time to even deliberate on this budget. It was submitted late, and it was even rushed at the end of the day. Imagine review a document for 3,000 pages within a week or two. There will be inefficiencies in the budget at the end of the day. Second, I want to speak on is the issue of budget realism. how realistic is even the budget at the end of the day? If you say that you want to, I have issues with the 2025 budget, honestly, because if you look at where we are coming from, if you make, for example, you make 7 trillion naira in 2024, how do you want to make 23 trillion naira in 2025 to fund the budget of about 59 trillion naira? How do you want to do that? How realistic is that? That's a massive jump. It's unrealistic, and that's where you'll be seeing all of these inefficiencies. You'll be like, okay, there are a lot of projects that were abandoned. There were a lot of projects that had to move into the new fiscal year because there was not even enough revenue for it, and that's where you'll be seeing an outrageous deficit in the budget too at the end of the day. You understand? How realistic? So we have to discuss budget realism too. Implementation of and oversight issues is something that we discuss every time. We have committees that handle this issue in partnership with the Ministry of Finance and the Treasury. The Bureau of Public Procurement too has their own role to play. What is the issue?
Perhaps, yeah, you were going to say
the Bureau of Public Procurement did not submit the list of contractors to the Ministry of Finance to process payments? Is it that the Ministry of Finance has gotten it, or they quickly did not submit it to the central bank for payment to be made?
I was just going to say that perhaps the job is too overwhelming for those in power now. But you've said too, and we've seen in the past that even previous administrations struggle.
Yes, it's not even about
of some sort.
It's moved into the new administration.
All right, we've got to go. We're halfway through the year 2025. We're not sure about the implementation of the 2025 budget. We're struggling now with 2024, which is last year. That this time, you experts will say we ought to by now, while reviewing the 2025 budget, we need to be preparing for 2026 by now, so that we don't rush to implement.
In fact, by now, the budget process for 2026 should have commenced. But because you've not even completed the implementation of 2024, you are struggling to implement 2025. How will you even have time to prepare for 2026?
So
these are the issues that overlapping budget causes.
It's not safe to say that there is a problem, there is fire on the mountain, but I wouldn't say that in any case. But it's a picture that you're painting that's bringing those words out of the mouth. Well, let's leave things there, and we'll continue to follow this matter and see where this leads. Again, the 2024 budget implementation extended till December 2025, and indeed, we're not sure about at this point. The implementation of the 2025 budget is June 2025. This conversation continues. Oluwatosin Isheni, Head Artificial Intelligence Accountability and Data for Society Budget, has been my guest today. Thank you so much for being on the program and for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate that. Well, Nigerians, there you go. That's the story of budget implementation in Nigeria. It's not new, yet we must find new ways to get things done. And if we must move forward, indeed, we've got to do better. You've heard from the man. Let's stop by the comment section. Let me know what you think and make of this conversation. Kingsley Bass is my name. Until next time, Homo Politicos, make sure you're safe and God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Bye for now.